Okay, so these are some basic measurements. So I measured off camera, measuring the nose, measuring how far the bottom of the nose was to the chin, and also dividing that space up into thirds. I could just double check on the reference, but if I know the bottom of the nose to the chin, then I can divide into 3 equal parts. And the mouth, the middle of the mouth, where the two lips meet, can be found on the top third. So I'm trying to do this lightly because there may be things that need to be moved. So the lighter you do it, the better it will be, because then you can erase out. You also don't want to go too heavy on this because you want to shade with value rather than with line. Just getting the end of the nose there. That's going to help me with a lot of these other things. The placement of the lips, how far back to put the chin. So that's kind of the tip of the nose there. Look how much of the nose is actually attached to the face and how little of the nose is actually sticking out. I'd say about, if you're divided into thirds, 2/3 of the nose is on the face where the skull and flesh is, and 1/3 is sticking out into the open air. So it's not as much as we'd like to think. So I'm doing all those measuring and sighting, and I'm trying to get that curve to the upper lip. It's not a straight curve, it's a slight angle there. Now what you can do is you can draw some plumb lines. So plumb line is a line that is dropped straight down vertically, and I'm showing you on a reference picture that I just borrowed from the internet. So I'm looking at where the nose connects to the face, and I'm drawing a straight line down from there. So if you know that, and you can do it on your reference, if you know that on your reference, if you draw it on your reference, then you can also draw it on your drawing, but very lightly. So I drew 2 lines there. One is where that chin is, and where that indentation on the chin lines up with the nose. You really only have to draw one if you want, but I'm going to lightly, very lightly, place a line here. Now this is kind of optional. This is to help you to figure out how far back the chin is, because it's not a straight line down from the nose to the chin. There's some wiggle movement that happens. So now I'm just drawing where those 2 lips meet. Kind of goes in, and then it sort of kicks back out, and the bottom lip ends up looking a little bit straight. Now if you do look at the mouth from the side, it is very different from the mouth from the front. The mouth from the side looks like a heart that's been tipped over sideways a little bit. If you flip your reference picture sideways, you'll see that it does kind of look like a heart. And the bottom lip is a little bit fuller than the top lip. And even looking at this right now, I can tell my chin's a little bit too far out, so I'm going to need to move that over in just a moment. So it's not all, every time you draw, you get it perfectly. So I'm looking at that angle of his chin. So I'm using both references there. I'm using this one and the one that you're using too. I'm trying to get that angle of that chin. Trying to figure out how far out to go. Right, so I've moved the chin over so it looks like a more natural chin. And now I'm going to go in and try and get some of the detail on the nose. So you also need to look at where the nostril starts in relationship to where the nose connects to the face. So to me, the nostril looks like it starts just a little bit into the part of the nose where it's sticking out into the open, and then most of it is attached to the face. And it looks kind of like a bracket or a comma that's sideways. So I just drew a light outline of where the shading is going to go on the nose, and here's the upper lip. And I'm just sighting the angle there. And here's the bottom lip. I'm just time-lapsing the shading so you don't have to sit and watch. You're pretty good at shading at this point, but you want to compare value to value. So that darkest shadow is probably that cast shadow there. Also that indentation for the nostril. Anytime you have a hole, that's going to create a dark area. Anytime you have a cast shadow, you'll also get a dark area. I think I talked to you guys about the nose almost always being dark on the underside and then having a nice intense cast shadow onto the upper lip in this instance because of the lighting. That top lip is in shadow. The bottom lip is really not in shadow, sticking out. Some shading just below the upper lip, which is also a cast shadow. It's turning down, it's sloping down, so the light can't hit it. The upper lip is blocking the light. And your goal is to try and make this look as much like the reference picture as possible for this. So here's a close-up of the nose. The nostril itself is getting darker. A little shading around the nostril, but there is some reflected light just around the edge of the nostril there. So it's dark and then a little bit lighter. It helps to really look at the reference picture. Have that reference picture pinned pretty close to your paper. Okay, so I've worked off camera. We're now ready to go ahead and put in some whites. And again, gentle on the white. So this is even easier for you to look at because you're not looking at a photograph, you're looking at a drawing. The drawing's already done some of the work for you. So just make sure that right along the edge of that cast shadow under the nose, you go right up to the edge with the white on that. Anytime you have a cast shadow, the opposite edge of the cast shadow should be illuminated. It's pretty strongly. A little bit of light on the nose, a little bit on this cheek. You want to think of that cheek as kind of poofing out a little bit, sort of like a bagel would poof out. Remember how we talked about the chin being kind of a little mini sphere? That's happening there too. There's also some shines on the upper or the bottom lip there. All right, and this concludes it.